Started now.
Yeah.
Chris Douglas here with You, Me, Spirituality, and today I have my special guest,
Stephanie.
Yeah, so Stephanie reached out to me, what was that, last weekend?
It was last weekend.
Last weekend, out of the blue, I get a call about an astrology person in Kansas City, and I was like, yes, universe is answering my calls. I was like, I've been looking for clients and building this because I built the YouTube channel and we have a good following starting for its early days, but I also have done a lot of work and I want to get from the disconnected world to the connected world because that's a really big way to build a following is personal relationships.
Yes.
And that's what, right before I think you called, I went to Aquarius down in Westport.
The store?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I just went in there on intuition and was like, hey, I'm intuitive in the area. I'm looking to build my local physical connection to grow my online presence.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got to sit down with the owner. I did one of these readings to her. Like, she goes, well, how about now? And I was like, cool, let's go.
Wow.
I was like, how much time do we have? I can talk forever. And then next thing you know, she's like, yeah, let's get you set up on stage Saturdays, do astrology, numerology. And then I was like, as part of that, you have a great service here. So then I can open people up to who they are and what they need.
Nice.
But then now we have all these spiritual tools to get them on their way, which is where she makes money off of me being there. And I was like, perfect. There's our triangle.
Nice.
Let's do it.
Nice.
So that was like a really good affirmation of you calling me after that, of setting that up, because I was like, well, that just kind of came in out of nowhere, and then I was like, well, let's see what happens.
Yeah.
So, and then you call, and then I did your chart, and I was just like, oh my gosh, and I was texting you about this stuff because I was like, well, I don't know you, which is really good that it's like, but reading your stuff, I was like, okay, I think I know what's going on here, and that's where I see you at this phase of like, opening the door of like all this spiritual stuff that you can do with your life. Because numerology 9s are like, y'all are like the high vibers.
Yeah.
And that's what, so your sun was Cancer,
Mm-hmm.
your rising sign was Gemini, and your moon was Aquarius.
Right.
So like, putting those three together, that's a tough draw. But overall, it's like independent leader and like teaching as a whole, especially with numerology 9. So numerology 9's like emotional, which you had Cancer to that, the most emotional, which this I was reading earlier. I was like, oh, great. Highly sensitive to the feelings of others and feeling of disappointment deeply. So that's like your numerology puts you in the like most emotional life path where you learn to feel emotions, but now you have the sun sign that is like complementing it. So this whole life is just meant to feel the deepest emotions of others and yourself, so then you really learn how to feel, which Cancers are really good at.
Yes.
But then, here's where the science and everything else comes in. So then you have your rising sign, Gemini, which you're like all over the place, but you're quick-witted, you're sharp with your mind. And then when you talk to people, you almost probe them or like poke and pull to get more information out of them.
Right.
And then it's almost like, Geminis have a really hard time focusing on one thing. Any Gemini I know, they do everything.
I'm all over the place.
Yeah, which is good.
Yeah.
But then you learn all these tricks and trades, but if you're emotionally trying to understand people, like now you understand them as a full instead of focusing on personality or just their life or their background, their environment. Now you're looking at everything together, which is where I got the intuitive side of your reading of like, oh my gosh, you should get into intuitive work.
Can I actually mention something to you? So I get the feeling that I really want to be involved in like the astrology readings, tarot. I have my tarot cards. I want to do Reiki, but in trying to get into the world of
it's not hard. So that is where I was like, so in that reading with Tanya Mosley.
Yes.
So craziest story ever, meeting Tanya Mosley. I don't know if I've told this in a video. We went to a fitness convention at Overland Park Convention Center.
Wow.
And we're walking around, we're just meeting people for a fitness business we started called KC Fit Pass. That one's on the back burner right now because it needs so much funding. But we're finding funding through doing video and stuff like this. But so we're about ready to walk out and I see the number 33, which is my sign to just like go talk to that person.
Yeah.
So I think I was with Spencer and Rico, and we're walking out, 33 catches the corner of my eye, and I'm like, just turn around, and I was like, oh, hold on, one more stop.
Right.
So we go over there, and then there's this lady standing there, just vibrant, glowing, and I was like, hey, how are you? And she goes, good, you're the tech guys. And I was just like, Like, my jaw hit the floor.
Yeah.
I'm wearing nothing that says tech-based. I'm actually in joggers and my Alpha Omega hoodie.
Oh, so she just sensed it.
Yeah, she literally just goes literally out of the blue.
Okay.
Imagine walking up to a table at, like, CVS and the person going, "You're intuitive." And I was like...
Yeah,
So then I, like, immediately picked up her wavelength and was like, "You're really good at what you do." And she looks at me almost like, You're very intuitive." And then there's just, like, connection.
Right.
And then I felt her energy instantly, which I'd never felt before.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, I feel like I did, drink a Red Bull, like probably 6 Red Bulls. Like, I was endlessly charged up.
Yeah.
As I'm talking to her, and I'm like... And then we get out of the convention, like, I grabbed her card, and she told me, like, she even read Spencer's mind at one point. She's handing out cards, and it's like, "Here's 30% off my services." She looks at me and goes, "You're going to want to use this in March." And I was like, okay. Like, I'm okay with that. Like, I'm open. Which her Rainbow Ray Healer class started in March, but I ended up trading out video work for her to take her course, which I'm in right now, which is where I'm, like, learning and mastering all this stuff. And that's more of the Reiki. Intuitive healing's like Reiki. It's the next level above Reiki. Okay. Because it uses a whole new aspect, but still energy-based and, like, chakra-based. Okay. So... end up getting that from her, end up doing that. Spencer's over there, and he's looking like, because she made me draw 3 cards, and I had to draw an ace, which was the exact identical of the ace on the back of my business card I used to have, which I was, like, mind blown with that. But I drew a 3, a 9, which reduces down to 3, and then I draw the ace, and I was like, oh, there's the ace, so I got my discount. Spencer didn't draw anything or get anything. And she goes, "Oh, hold on a second, here you go. I know you want one too." And then our buddy Rico, she's just, like, endlessly reading his mind too, and I'm just sitting there like, wow, this is my, like, new best friend. Yeah. So then got connected to Tanya afterwards with music, or with the videography stuff, and I reached out and was like, "Hey, you have something really cool. I think you need help building your platform." Then got connected with her, and then trade out. Next thing you know, I'm in her class, and now she's, like, my best friend on, like, the spiritual side. That's so awesome. And she's the coolest person ever. But to tie this story together, you guys have the same astrology. She's a numerology 9, Cancer Sun, Aquarius Moon. The only thing different is your rising sign, which you actually leave through life. Wow. And rising sign, a really good way to look at it, is your mask that people perceive you as. Yeah. But it slowly comes off as you find your ego and your inner self together. It becomes like your new mask blended. Wow. So that's where I was like, when I did this chart, I was like, something's hidden me, very important here. And then I was like, you need to reach out to Tanya Mosley. I am. And then, like, I told Tanya, I was like, oh my gosh, I just did a client's reading. Oh, you told her about me? Oh, yeah, endlessly. Because, like, literally, Tanya and we're on this wavelength where if she's thinking of me, I'll just get this random thing to be like, hey, what's up? Yeah. Or I'll just call her, and she's like, I was thinking about you. And I was like, I felt that. That's why I called you. Yeah, the same thing when you had texted me. I was like, I was just talking about you. I got that, like, 3 times that day, too. Yeah. And that's like me, 3s. Everything comes in 3s. So if I know I did something bad, I get 3. Like, ooh, then I'm like, okay, let's not do that again. Yeah. But then you were the first one of that day to start that. Then I texted Tanya. She hit me with the same. And then I was thinking about texting one of my buddies, or actually calling him, and he shoots me a text right away. And I'm just like, this is cool. Yeah. So that's where you and Tanya have exact identical astrologies on the surface. Yeah, and she's like her whole service is called Talking with the Angels. Okay. And she does that very well, which you'll find out. But it's like she's almost like if you like quantum physics is like energy source. She's like the high energy source, just attracting all us intuitives to her. She's like She's like the intuitive master, teaching everybody how to be intuitive or get them to that lifestyle. Nice. And then she's really good at intuitive healing, which is her other service. I'll be reaching out. Yeah, definitely. And that's what she has, like, she started, like, crystal massage we did a video for. And she just has a plethora of stuff, and I'm endlessly just learning from her and then kind of pulling in my own and just making, like, which is really how it works. Like, she's a foundation, but then she teaches you that, but then you have your own little niche, which I think yours is, like, writing. As we, like, endlessly discovered. Yeah. And that's where it's like, maybe your life is emotionally set up to teach others through writing, whether it be blogs, books, but just create this safe environment for people who have problems, who will endlessly find your services and learn from them. And that's where you're almost here to teach people through your emotional experiences
Yeah.
how little theirs is and how to get through it right away instead of having to go through the process.
Can I tell you something about
Yeah.
my writing? So I actually did natal chart reading probably about 7 years ago. But everything changes because we're in 2019.
Yeah. And the universe is like...
Yes. So they had mentioned the same thing. They said, Stephanie, you're great at writing. You need to journal. You need to do this. You need to do that. And I said, okay. So I started journaling, but I didn't keep up with it. But then I ended up writing a children's book.
There you go.
So I wrote the children's book in 2015. I wrote a curriculum with it. I really haven't been marketing and pushing it like I want to because I'm not here in the States. I'm actually in China.
It's okay. There's so much you can do. I can give you some little tips off camera about. There's so much. Like the United States is really expensive to market in.
Right.
That's where there's many of outsourcing methods that work really well.
Okay.
And it doesn't. Something we struggled with at one point in business was thinking we had to have like American viewers.
Right.
And, no, like open up to everybody.
Can I jot some of this stuff?
Yeah, for sure. Okay. And then we'll have this video. We'll post the video as well. So it's like you'll just endlessly, once you get out of serving the U.S., it's like, think of the world. You're here to help the world, not just your nation. Your nation is where you grew up in and where you're comfortable with. Get out of the comfort zone, because if I have a YouTube channel, I'm after views and people consuming my views.
Right.
Well, there's 1 million people in Philippines that might love this content, and they're more spiritual than people in Kansas City.
Right.
So I'm like, cool, let's hit that market.
Yeah.
And it's like, exploring that is something simple that you write it here, but now like sell it to the world. Don't sell it where nobody's receptive of it.
Right.
And that's like a huge thing in business you learn. It's almost like you're so focused on the community that you're like, okay, well I can help them, but I can also help them more if I have, say, 100,000 books sold.
Yeah.
Now I have money to donate to my community. Right. So then you like work backwards almost.
Right. Okay.
Or you can start from the community and grow up slowly.
Yeah.
Which is so cool.
Nice.
Something that popped up endlessly in your chart, and I don't know if I wrote a lot about it, I think I did, was leadership. Your astrology, besides one sign, was leadership. And then having a Cancer sun, you're a cardinal sign. Okay. And then you had, I think the Aquarius was the only aspect that wasn't a leadership in your chart. Okay. And I think I said 6 out of 10 with, having that sign in the planet was leadership. So you're 60% a leader, but then you have the key in having leadership in the sun. And then you had Scorpio and Pluto, which is a signifier of leadership. And that's where, when I started this journey with myself, I did my natal chart, and my leadership count was 16, which was extremely high. And at that time I was like, I'm a registered nurse, I'm not in a leadership role. But then I endlessly was hit in the head with like, this is why you have endless conflict, because
my goodness, when I want to bring that point up. When you sent that to me in my PDF, I don't get intimidated by my bosses. Yeah. And I actually sometimes do have conflicts with them, because I see myself. Yeah, I see myself as equal as you. You just are in a higher position than I am, but I could run your job just as probably good or even better.
And that's where everybody who has this role in their chart that I know from, like my friends, myself, you, is like, everybody who's not in a leadership role that has leadership personalities gets pushed out of it, because it's like, the universe saying, get out from under this person. You're on the same level, if not higher, with taking the ego out of it. Yes. But then it's endlessly like your boss is intimidated by you, whether they want to say it or not, because they know you could take over their job and do better probably. So their role, or their protection, their ego, because they're probably not spiritual, they're trying to push you on to your course while also protect their job. And then it was like, I never thought I was a leader, and then I endlessly put myself in leadership roles, and it worked out. Yeah. And then I was like,
you put yourself, or it's kind of the universe kind of...
Well, the universe knocked me. My great story was like February 2nd, 2018, right after the blood moon. I had all this stuff go down at work. Then they were saying stuff that wasn't true, and then I was just like, I got fed up with it, and they were pretty much making me sign a letter that said they had control over me for 2 to 3 years. And I was like, and then I was like, well, I think you guys are addressing one side of the problem, but the problem that I perceived is not being addressed at all. Right. And then they were dropping, they said so many, like, hateful things. The one thing that kept hitting me was, leave, resign.
Yeah.
And then that's where I was like, I'm sorry, I'm going to resign from this job
Yeah.
for inability to adapt to employees' needs and unsafe work environment, which were the two things that I felt like they weren't addressing.
Right.
But then I got the feeling that they weren't addressing that because they were too afraid that I'd turn around and sue them. But I was like, literally, like, stop covering your butts, just let's talk like people,
do the right thing,
and then fix this, because my thing was like, they were wanting me to come back after a month with like no, I took a month off, and they wanted me to take a full patient load the next day and just resume work, and I was like, that's very unsafe.
Too much, yeah.
And then I was like, what if I have the same, episode and stuff, and then, nothing gets addressed, and I'm in the same thing.
Right.
Because I ended up in the ER that day because I was endlessly not taking serious for what I was stating.
Right.
And they're like, oh, you're dodging this, and that. And I was like, no. Like, I was cold claiming that my blood sugar crashed. I felt terrible.
Right.
They hooked me up to heart monitors, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh my God, he's a beat away from VTAC. And I was like, but at that point I was so out of it. I was in like the most like fuzzy state ever. But then the reality of that was I would have never left nursing and would have been stuck in the whole nursing system.
That would have never happened.
Yeah, because I had to be pushed out.
Yes.
And then that's where, after that event happened, that next day, I remember just being like so at peace with everything.
Yeah.
And then in my head I'm like, you shouldn't be at peace with this. But then it was very...
In your heart you said,
yeah. It was just like, I had so much stress off my shoulders.
Yeah.
But then that got me out of a role where I was under people to creating and focusing on my business and then building up that leadership role.
Nice.
And it's so crazy to revisit that, but it was like, I tell everybody else, it's like, if I had to do it again, I would, because it was just like a great experience of going from kind of that matrix 9 to 5, work your week away, live for the weekends, to like now every day's a weekend and I'm living every day, to the extent that I'm almost exhausted at the end of every day because I'm just like, this could be my last.
Yeah.
And then I just endlessly live with that lifestyle.
Nice.
And that's what it's like, kind of seeing your stuff, I saw that trend of getting out of working under people and just building like your giant whatever it's going to be.
This is the reason why I reached out to you, because I said I'm giving myself 2 more years of my contract, and then just letting life flow wherever I go. So I wanted to know, okay, what path do I go down, marketing to the world, not just to the United States.
And that's where it's like, that's almost like that self-exploration I set up.
Yeah.
Because then it's like, no matter what you do, everything will shift, and that's the butterfly effect.
Right.
But then it's just the process of going through the process.
Yeah.
And that's where I could tell you, like, pinpoint, here's everything you should do, or maybe intuitively is coming to me. But you won't learn from that. The only time people learn is from mistakes, and you have to make like giant mistakes to like, oh my gosh, I'm never doing that again.
Yes.
And then that gives you more stuff to teach people on through your process.
Gotcha.
Because if you have like this easy story, it's like the greatest stories in Hollywood are like just endless, like battles, struggles, keep pushing, throwing hooks.
Yeah.
And then it's like, but then you hit your success at the end, and then it's like that Cinderella story.
Right.
And it's like, I'm not going to crush your Cinderella story. You're here and all this for a reason.
Yeah.
I'm just like, let's get you shifted over to this direction a little bit.
Okay.
And that's what I see endlessly with my clients and people who I talk to, is like, I'm the great awakener almost. I'll like awaken people like that. Or I just am like, get out of the matrix. Here's a whole new lifestyle you never thought of. And then it's kind of like people who I'm with are endlessly diving in deeper to that stuff now. Yeah. And that's where I'm like at like the greatest, like, yes, because I get to help somebody with something I love. Right. And that's where I've hurt myself in the past of being too empathetic, that I care for others more than myself. So I've had to learn that, like,
the balance.
Yeah, care for myself and self-worth, but then help others with the energy and abundance I attract on the backside. Correct. So I took them off the burner and said, here's the back burner. I'm going to be the main source, but share everything that comes through. Absolutely. And that's been like so rewarding. So rewarding. Nice. And that's what I see, just endless stuff like this with your chart, was just teaching others and helping others through what you know. But in order to do that to the most power, you have to get to a spot where you have that power. But the big thing behind that is confidence. And that's where your sun sign and all your signs are set up, but that might be something that you subconsciously haven't reached yet. Yeah. It's just, and it's so hard to get that balance between ego of thinking it, right, but then truly believing it. Yeah. Is like, because I had something with that come up where I was like, yes, like I'm feeling it, but then I wasn't really feeling it. I was thinking it, but my heart wasn't connecting to my head.
Right.
And then that's what I sent in yours. The heart's more powerful than the brain.
Absolutely.
And that's where EKGs send off like 1,000 times the energy that an EEG does.
Yeah.
So if you can think it, but if you can feel it and think it,
right.
then you're truly aligned with like soul, self, mind.
Yeah.
And then boom, it manifests in front of you.
Yeah. I listened to this blog. No, what is it? It's like a radio blog.
Okay, like oh gosh, I went blank.
What do they call it?
I think it was like PPR or whatever that's called.
Podcast. Yes.
There you go.
Podcast.
It's literally this guy just gets hit with everything.
So I listened to a podcast. I've been listening to her for 10 years. Her name is Miss Blue.
Okay.
She runs the Remix, and literally she talks about everything intuitive. But I remember one year she talked and emphasized the heart. Like, the heart is the mind. And so whatever the heart feels, then the mind figures out how to work, how to
And I told you this in your reading was like, be vulnerable, use your heart, which is the hardest thing to do.
Yeah.
And it is because I've been so vulnerable, being an 11 double Pisces, like I'm the most vulnerable out there.
Yeah.
And I've been crushed in the past, which has taught me how to feel again.
Yeah.
But then in acknowledging the feelings of my heart, now I'm like, oh my gosh, let's wear my heart on my sleeve and be vulnerable, because it's actually a powerful trait.
Thank you for mentioning that.
And then it's like, but wear your heart on your sleeve, chase whatever your heart's telling you.
Yeah.
Allow yourself to get emotional, like be distant, but also like start feeling around it all.
Yeah.
And like, you know, if you find somebody, like find their friends, find their friends' friends, see their whole circle before you invest in them.
Yeah.
But then use your brain to analyze, is this somebody I want to invest in?
Right.
Because a lot of people do vice versa, and this is where I was getting lost, was diving in with my head, and then I'd create illusions or what I wanted that person to be to fulfill whatever void I needed fulfilled.
Yeah.
And then I was creating them to be this most magical person, and then reality kicks in and goes, boom, they're not, and then, okay, now I just was like, but then I was numb to it because I wasn't feeling with my heart.
Exactly.
And then as soon as my heart was coming to, so I had a block in my heart,
Yeah.
as soon as my heart would need to get involved, I'd like go into my little Pisces shell and be like, don't come near. And I'm like all by myself right now.
Yeah.
And it was...
Thank you for bringing that up.
You're welcome.
And it's also helped me with like bonding relationships that have been, you know, thrown away in the past by being vulnerable.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay to tell someone, no, you hurt my feelings. Like, my feelings were really hurt.
Yeah, and that's what, if any past relationship that is toxic or has any negative aspect, something I've learned and we've read in books is just like, you hold that toxic energy by holding that grudge, you're doing nothing but creating negativity for yourself. And that's where it's been like, even if somebody's done the most, like say somebody murdered my friend, by holding a grudge on that person, I will never have that energy healed. But by thinking like, healers almost take every aspect of positive, negative, what we learned and how we learned through it.
Right.
You put it all in that one bag and now you go, oh, now I understand why it happened.
Yeah.
Why did this person do that? Well, they probably didn't have somebody loving and they needed attention.
Exactly.
So then it's like, if anybody has turmoil or acts negatively, my main instinct now is to send them positive vibrations and love.
Exactly. Because you don't know their position or what triggers them to behave the way that they do.
Exactly. I have no, and that's judging them for one.
Yes.
And then I have no idea what they've been through, what they just had happen to them.
Yeah.
Like nothing. I'm taking this 1 second to be like, I know this person. No, nobody does. So then it's like, who am I to judge? And then what can I do? Well, here's some love and positivity, which they're going to like push away from.
Yeah.
But it's going to push them in the right direction.
Exactly.
But if I act negative towards them, I'm just fueling them.
Right.
And I'm making them more toxic because now I'm sending them more negative energy.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, cool. So if I had beef with somebody now, I'm just like, hey, like, I'm sorry this happened. Like, I didn't know this stuff back then. You know, glad everything's working out for you. Like, send them more positivity and just, like, lift them up.
Yes.
And it works.
It does.
Like, this camera we got from somebody who we had some, like, not the best exit with, but then he gave us a heck of a deal on it.
Yeah.
And it helped me, but it was no use to him. And then my friend bought my camera from me, and I was like, oh, my gosh.
It just works out.
And it was like it was like a universe check of ego for me.
Yeah.
To like be vulnerable and reach out to that person, which I was like, I don't know how this will go, and then I'm like, okay,
just do it.
Cancel, clear, erase. I know this is gonna go well. I'm texting him now. It went well as soon as I had that intent.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is like, everything, especially with you too, is like whatever you think you can create. So create the best, and that's where you're like, should I stay overseas or work back here?
Yeah, I did actually.
What do you think? Like, create it. Like, do both if you want to do both. Or, something I see, and I made the mistake on in entrepreneurship, was diving in 100% with no background. A smart person would have like stayed in nursing from wherever I would have done and then built this.
Right.
But I dove in, and
that's
where it's like almost what we're about to do next is create courses on how to build a business quickly, which we were forced to.
Right.
But now I have all this education and been through like the worst of it, the best of it.
Yeah.
Now,
and then you double down on it and make it go faster.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And now I can create a course and help a ton of people with entrepreneurship and be like, here's something you should do.
Yeah.
Don't do this though. I did it. It didn't work. 100% believe me.
Exactly.
So, and I was like, oh, there's the silver lining with all that stuff.
Yeah.
Even though it doesn't seem silver as you're like working through it, you're like, what am I doing? And why isn't this working? And then you're like, oh, it's all a lesson, and I have to teach somebody else.
Exactly.
And that's where we really connected. Since you're a 9, my numerology is 11, so I have the 2 and the 9. So I have to live the 9 life path, and then I have to live the 2, which is love and romance, and then I also have the emotional teaching.
Wow.
So it's like my love and romance that goes bad emotionally teaches me more.
Right.
But then it's like, okay, now I'm working on the emotional side, then I'm working on the love and romance side.
Nice.
Because you can go kind of teeter-totter back and forth, or you can grow them both at the same level.
Okay.
So that's where I was like, the 9 resonated very high with me on you, and then being a water sign, I was like, oh, I feel all this because I'm extremely sensitive.
Chris, my boy.
But then it's like, boom, all right, let me help you. Like, here's where I've been through this, and as being that 9 aspect was like, oh my gosh, I was there at one point. Let me help you get through it quicker.
Right.
But now your goal is to teach other people what you're learning.
Yeah.
Because you have so much more different experiences than me.
Yeah.
But in the origin of it, it's still emotional to whatever you perceive as your emotional experience.
Right.
And that's where it's like I asked you too in the chart. It's like numerology 9s always have something emotional happen young in their life.
Yeah.
And that's what I encouraged you to kind of like, I didn't put it out there a lot because it can be very deep. Yeah. But it's like whatever happened when you were younger, that's a really big, story to kind of curate and help somebody else that's stuck and might not have those resources.
Right.
But one day maybe they hop on Google and this is so crazy how the universe works. It's like, when you ask me what articles I use, I Google something.
Yeah.
And my eyes just go right to it. And then my affirmation is like looking at the Google searches, it'll equal 11 every time.
Nice.
So then I'm like, oh, cool. That's what I want. But it's like that's where whatever happened to you that was really emotional in your life, to clear it, you have to tell the story about it and get it off, which is where journaling and writing really helps.
Yeah.
And then, that's where you can ask yourself why. Why do I feel emotional about this? But then just answer that question. Now you have another paragraph.
Right.
Why do I think that? And that's where you stair step.
Yeah.
But essentially from a healer standpoint, I'm getting you to go to the root of the problem. So I bring it to the surface, you address it, but by addressing it and being at peace with it, and then sharing it with others, you're 100% healing it.
But the thing about it is, so when you did mention that in my PDF reading, that the traumatic thing that happened, it has taken me, like I'm still working through it. It's taken me years through journaling, even reaching out to the person saying, hey, you hurt me.
Yeah.
And even to this day, I still have to journal. I still have to visualize, sending healing and love to my younger self, or because. I say that to say it doesn't. Oh, did you feel it?
Yeah.
I say that to say it doesn't happen overnight. It's a continuous process.
So this is why else I connected with Tanya. Tanya's a 9. She had something really traumatic happen.
Yeah.
And I'll let her tell the full story to you, but she literally hearing Tanya talk about this and being like, I wanted to stab the guy, cut him down the center, watch him bleed out, and then she goes, but then that's where I was toxic with it.
Right.
Here's how I healed it, and it took her 2 to 3 years to do that.
Right.
And that's where I was like, I got that message continually, like it's still a part of you.
Still a process. Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, oh my gosh, Tanya's like your mentor of how to clean this 100%.
Yeah,
her story will absolutely move you of like how she looks at it now and what happened. You'll be like, what? Because I was shook by it when she told me. I was like, I would have never thought this of you, would have never seen you in that dark of a spot, but then seeing where you're at with it now is like, oh my gosh, it was so empowering. And that's where I had something happen around 5 that she dug up, and then somebody else dug up, and then I was like, what
Do
the
you
heck?
remember it?
They were like, Chris, you're blocking yourself, this and that, and I'm there like,
No.
Like, it was so, and that's what yods too kind of do, is it buries it so deep within you, sometimes you don't even know it's there.
Right.
But then you get down the spiritual path, you find people that dig it out and endlessly bring it to the surface.
Right.
You have like 2 options of denying it or accepting it. But when you accept it and then work towards cleansing it, your whole new world opens up.
Right.
And that's like that one void is like, mine was that. As soon as I addressed it, worked through it, and mine was my father. Got through all this and that, and now we're on a whole new level.
Nice.
But everything is like endlessly like confirming that that was a good choice to heal that.
Right.
And I was like, whoa, like my dad and I were never in a good relationship, probably from like 7 to a month ago. Endlessly butting heads and conflicting. Mm-hmm. And then the other day wasn't the best with them, but it was still like I was being patient and working towards it. Mm-hmm. But ever since I did that stuff to heal that process with them, it's been like everything's opening up.
Nice.
And then I was like, oh, was that it?
Yeah.
Because that was like the root of my problems, which is your sacral chakra. Mm-hmm. And that is like where you monetize from. That's all your money, your abundance. It's your foundation. And mine had a block, so no wonder I couldn't attract abundance or anything like that. And then I was like, and then any relationship I'd get into, I'd feel blocked. Right. And I didn't know what that block was, but then they pulled this up and I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah. And then I was like, worked on healing it, and that was my intention, and then it happened, and boom.
Right.
So that's where I was like, Tanya came in on so many levels with you, and I was like, you know, she is starting her Rainbow Ray course too. Maybe that's something you'd be interested in.
Yeah. I definitely do want to talk to her. Mm-hmm. I know I leave out of town on the 8th, but if she has an iPhone, then...
Yeah, oh yeah, she does Zoom and iPhone, all that stuff. That's where, I can get you guys connected. Yeah. And she gets back to work, I think, around the 8th. Because she's on her whole, like, she's a Cancer, she's very emotional, very intuitive. Now she's taking her break to recharge because she feels so overwhelmed and drained with everything. And I'm like, no, I 100% get that. Yeah. That's like when I go into video world, I'm doing my recovery as well. Yeah. And that's where right now, it's funny, my co-star was like, I live and breathe co-star, by the way. This is my baby. My co-star today said, I had no thinking and creativity, so I was like, cool, I'm not going to work on any video edits today because I'm not going to get anywhere.
So basically you...
Oh, I look at this every day. Intuitively, I'm like, okay. I wake up and I'm like, I'm feeling, and I've been really deep on feeling my feelings. Yeah. Because I went numb for so long, and then Tanya, whatever I asked her, she's like, well, how do you feel about it? Which is her endlessly being like, Chris, fill it out. So I started feeling, and then I was like, okay, I'm feeling, and today I like actually woke up and was like, I'm feeling very intuitive today. Uh-huh. And then my moonstone, I gotta feel this thing too. This is my intuition rock. Oh, wow. It fell out of my bag when we brought this stuff in, and I was like, huh, let's take some pictures over here. Thank you. Yeah, it's very grounding, feminine energy. And I'm very masculine on the right, so I gotta balance out. But then it said spirituality was high, self was high, and work and social life were in the healing or the fire, and then my trouble was thinking creativity. So I was like, what a perfect day we had this scheduled on.
Nice, I know.
And then Cancer is my friendship today. I use horoscope.com to map out, it has career, love, and friendship. Friendship's Cancer, and I was like, once
Chris,
again.
Really?
Yeah. And then Sagittarius is my love, but my love and my career are switched. I love to work, but I need to work on my love life. Gotcha. So then my career, my love was a Sagittarius, who's who I was talking to at the front desk. It's a Sagittarius, and then I think Libra or Leo is my career, which I'll probably see tonight when we go film stuff for like just playing around with the camera. Nice. And I use that every day to validate who I'm meeting, where they fit, and then how it's going to grow. Okay. And then it also will warn me, like, be aware of this person. They might have the wrong intentions, and it's never been wrong. Wow. And even if I go against my intuition of like, yeah, no, I think they're a really good person, and I see the best in everybody, but it burns me sometimes. Yeah. Whenever I see that, and that person's matching in that bubble, I'm like, I could have known you for 20 years. I'm still going to be very distant for the next week. Yeah. And it's proven itself very worthy lately. Nice. But before, I had to get burned probably like 3 times before I was like, oh, okay, let's pay attention to it. Yeah. But that's how I've learned through that, and then now I'm sharing it with you. Nice. So.
Well, I love you sharing everything
Yeah,
with me because
thank you.
He had mentioned the butterfly effect.
Yes.
And I know I sent it back to you through text message, my interpretation, but I've seen the movie more than one time. But this time in particular that I saw, it was really understanding, like you said, whatever path you choose,
it will literally just like instantly rearrange.
Yes.
Like, oh, I have so many butterflies. So I was reading this in that book, and that's what I have a picture. I'll send you this. It is the greatest book ever for like getting on your subconscious thoughts. But it's called The Science of Miracles, Remembering the True Frequency of Love. She's talking about the butterfly effect in it, and I kid you not, I'm reading this book out in the foyer as the light's shining on me. I'm reading the butterfly effect, and it's like an instant change in the universe, and I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. My cell phone notifies me that DJ Snake just dropped an album, which has never notified me of an artist dropping an album on Apple Music. And I'm like, oh, cool, I love DJ Snake.
Yeah.
Swipe over, his first song on the album is The Butterfly Effect. And I'm just like...
Are you serious?
My jaw, like, literally, you gotta, like... My jaw hit the floor, and I was like, well, there's a great representation of the butterfly effect.
Wow.
And it's just like the instantaneous changes that you get hit with out of the blue are an example that your universe just twisted because something you're doing now is 100% different than the path you were on that is leading you to your new path.
Excellent.
And I was like, perfect. So now I'm subconsciously attaining my thoughts that were negative that I didn't know were there. And now anytime I feel one come, I'm like, cancel, clear, erase, and then I replace it with a positive thought of something I'm working on. And it's so awesome.
Gotcha.
But that book is draining the camera, battery number 2. But yeah, I mean, just butterfly effect. That's what we've been talking about. Why Spencer had to get another battery. But it's so magical that it just like, oh, and that's what I was telling you before as we were, okay, cool, thank you. It put me back on target. So then I was working down this path of growing my spiritual self, but I still had negative subconscious thoughts. And then I read the butterfly effect, and I literally had a butterfly effect in front of me validating what I just read, but then I saw everything butterfly effect from having a negative subconscious to now a positive subconscious and being aware of that instantly changed right in front of me. And then I was like, Spencer, read this book. You have to.
It is called The Butterfly Effect?
No, it's called The Science of Miracles.
The Science of Miracles. Okay.
And it's on, you have to get it directly from Dr. Sihon, or it might be on Google. Google might be the other source that I found it on. But it is the coolest book ever. And I got in touch with that book by, I got a affirmation. So anytime I see a number that clicks with me, I look it up. And I saw number 220. It was 220 in the morning, which is Archangel Raphael, who is there to help you heal emotionally and mental, like, whatever's dragging you down, he miraculously flips in a second.
Right.
Next morning, I go to Kristen's office. She has a book on it, and it has a Merkaba, which is
nice.
You know, like Merkabas. And I'm like, whenever I see Merkabas, like, literally Tanya's class has been all about Merkabas. And then I see one, and I'm like, yo, what's that book? I need to read it. Yeah. And she's like, I just got it. And I was like, can I borrow it? And she's like, yeah. Didn't leave with the book that day. Okay. Went back the next day, saw the book again, and was like, okay, I really have to leave with that book.
Absolutely.
I don't read at all. Ever. Like, I read maybe 3 books in my life.
Yeah.
I read that book in less than 12 hours just because I was hooked to it.
Yeah.
And then I was like, all right, Spencer, you got to read it. Nice. He doesn't read either. He was like, he read the book in like 3 straight hours. Like, he just sat down and I was like, hey, what do you think about this? And he goes, hold on, I'm at this is really deep. And I was just like, this is awesome. So then that book has just endlessly been like, yo, read it. Then Kristen read it. We did the book review. And now it's just like, yo, everybody needs to read this book. It is like literally a life-changing book.
Nice.
And it just changes your perception of like what you think about, how you think. And then social media is a big aspect I brought up too. If your social media is flooded with negativity, by liking it, you're going into the negative train, and then the other people who are negatively pushing it, you're building all that negative energy by pushing like. Wow. And then it's like, okay, I see that stuff, I'm like, unfriend. Yeah. See ya. Yep. And now my feed is just like the power of positivity. I'm seeing like
quotes,
all these hustlers doing stuff and building, and I'm like, yes. Yeah, and then I'm like seeing all this stuff happen around me too, and I'm like, I was around the wrong people, even though I thought I was around the right people.
Yeah. Nice.
So, what is one question you want to ask? This is like my favorite part of this all. It's just like there's always one question.
Um,
And it can be, they literally just like pop in.
I'm so not good at this because when
I'm not either.
I'm on the spot when somebody asks, because I think I asked you.
Yeah, you had a lot of questions.
Well, maybe you can elaborate on the expansion, because you said I have a lot of creativity in my chart. I have a lot of leadership in my chart. I have a lot of emotion in my chart. I got knowledge a long time ago.
Yeah.
To work with children and to teach.
So you endlessly brought up children, and I was getting the vibe of mothers too.
Mothers, yes.
So it's almost like your expansion would be to, and anything you do through kids is very powerful, because now you affect the kids, but the kids can't get access to the product without the parents.
Correct.
So now instead of selling to one population,
Right.
now you have two market splits: the kids, but you have to find the parents that are related to the kids.
Right.
And then you can one up it with grandparents. But then it's like, something that endlessly hits me is like creative writing.
Right.
And
Like
maybe
my books.
Yeah, and that's what I haven't read your books. I don't know
Okay.
your books. So then that's where it's like, yeah, maybe that's resonating with you. So then it's like creative stuff that can help kids emotionally learn through something that relates to them and their parents. And then it's like put it all
like
together.
the relation.
Yeah, and I'm all about like Merkabah's triangles.
Right.
So I always think of like, here's my main frame, but
Right.
here's the two foundation factors.
Right.
So it's like yours is, I'm seeing like creativity and writing,
Uh-huh.
and then mothers and children.
Right.
But now your goal is to like make it all in one. No matter where you're looking at in here,
Right.
it all crosses over.
Right.
So whatever that is, I don't know. That's where it's like through your path.
Create it yourself. Yeah.
And that's where it's like, I think I might have told you this too, and I've seen it endlessly, is like emotions are fuel to creativity. Without being emotional or having like, if something really hits me hard and I'm like, oh my gosh, my first instinct is to just dive into work, because I'm very creative and I'm very emotional, but that's when I get my coolest videos.
Nice.
So then now I know that if something like hits me hard, I'm like, cool, I'm gonna go sit in front of my computer and put all my emotions into this project.
Okay.
But then people see my drone videos as healing, even though they don't know it. They're like, oh my gosh, that was awesome, I love the music, and they tell me everything that I put into it or channeled into the healing. They're like, I love how the music complemented the video and it told a story, and I'm like, perfect, that's what I wanted.
Yeah.
But then it's like, so that's my creative, that's like my 9, kind of like we were talking about for you.
Right.
Like, so I like spiritual healing, but people sometimes block the spirituality side to even get what's behind it.
Right.
So now I'm like, check this out. I released this drone video with music that's healing. Nature's all in it, which is also healing.
Yeah.
But I put it out there in a mainstream format
Right.
that you don't even think of it as spiritual.
Right.
So that's me getting creative to get around their, subconscious blocks of like, that's spiritual. I'm not in that market.
Right.
Like, stop drinking the Kool-Aid. And I'm like,
Yeah.
But so then that's like maybe like your creativity comes through to help people connect spiritually without knowing that it's spiritual, but you're like maybe their introduction point of getting them to think of something beyond what they're told endlessly. Because that's like the big point in life is thinking of like, what do you know in life? Well, at age like 21, you know nothing because you've been told everything. You've been molded to this muffin. And now you have the choice of like, you start breaking free, people try to get you back in line, and I've learned to just push through those.
Yeah.
And then you expand your own thoughts, your own foundations, your own beliefs from what you believe, but you've been previously told, and then you assess through all those.
Nice.
And it's crazy, and it's a hell of a path.
Yeah.
But it's really rewarding when you understand like how you view the world. Everybody's different.
Yeah.
But then find people who relate to that.
Exactly.
And that can be a difficult part, but it almost teaches you to pull your thoughts and then to account for others' thoughts and find that middle ground again.
Right.
Which is tough because everybody wants their product to be 100% theirs.
Yes.
But then it's like your product has no buyers.
Right.
Now you have to take the buyers into account plus what you put out there
Exactly.
to have that 50-50 because now it's give and get.
Yeah.
So
Agreed.
if that answers your question.
Yeah.
And then,
And then expounding not only in the U.S., but you said
yeah,
look at
nationwide, yeah,
something
worldwide.
nationwide, worldwide.
For instance, like I can target 300 for $10 on Instagram. For instance, this is a really good model to use. $10 on Instagram, I can target Kansas City and hit 320,000 people for $10. I can go out to California and do the same thing and target 3,200,000 people for $10. But which one do I hit more on? Well, 3 million.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's still $10 I'm spending.
Yeah.
So then it's like, that's where I found like the spiritual market in Kansas City is not very good.
No.
So now I market on all the high spots, and then I put myself in those markets, but it's an online service.
Yeah.
So then it's like on my Google business page, Kansas City's not my top hit.
Right.
But it's where we're located, but then
Yeah.
my top hits are everywhere else around the country.
Nice.
And that's where it's just like, I thought I had to market to Kansas City and grow from here out, but now I'm like, oh, cool, well, that's hot, wherever it's hot, I'm going to have more business and more traction.
Right.
So then you work smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
And then you can put all your energy into your product instead of building your product.
Gotcha.
So, and that's been like life-changing. So,
It's amazing.
yeah. Anything else?
Your Saturn's return.
Saturn, wait, what?
Saturn's return.
What is that?
Have you heard of it?
No, that's not clicking on me.
Okay, so like Saturn's return is Saturn circles makes its full.
Oh, it's like it's
every
like
30
sun
years.
cycle.
Every 30 years.
Okay.
So
So we have a new Saturn, but like year
Like,
age starting.
yeah,
A new Saturn
29,
life
30,
cycle.
31 for
Okay.
each person. But I had did some research on it, but
What's your
really
Saturn in? Was it in Aquarius?
my
Leo?
house 7.
Let me see. Because I know my Saturn's in Leo, which means I'm going to make a lot of money for the next 30 years. See?
Yes.
I think. Let me hope that's right. Or my Saturn. Oh, my Saturn's in Aquarius.
My Saturn's in Sagittarius.
Ooh, money, money, money.
It is
money.
money.
Celebration. Yes, it's a fire. And
Ooh.
very empathic. You're going to be very, very sensitive to others.
Okay.
So that'll like up that power.
Okay.
So whenever that planet, and especially if it's in Sagittarius, whenever it hits Sagittarius, you'll feel the full force of everything happening.
Wow.
So as soon as you can get planets to realign at where they're at in birth,
Okay.
that's when you get the truest power of that planet.
Gotcha.
And then like right now too, so this is really good for your intuitive side stuff you were talking about. Neptune is in Capricorn right now until 2025, which people are getting very spiritual around us. Like they're starting to wear crystals, they're starting to use essential oils, CBD. All this stuff is becoming mainstream. Well, as soon as Neptune hopped in Capricorn, it all started happening. But now we have it for the next 6 years. And that's where I'm like, oh, what a great time to start a spiritual business.
Absolutely.
And now it's like, now I'm like the forefront of it. But that's also something with you maybe. It's like, oh my gosh, get in the spiritual world, grow it.
Right.
So when it's 100% mainstream, you're already solidified.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's a really big thing. And that's like the charts, knowing like what planet causes what.
Yeah.
And how you can use it to your advantage is like the true power of astrology.
Right.
And then astronomy is looking past astrology as like the whole universe.
Right.
And then
One more thing. So
Yeah.
you said you use CoStar. I think I get confused on the planetary alignment. You said like Neptune will be in Capricorn
main
for the
thing
next.
I use on this is I just click on my own, and then I get my daily notification. So trust your intuition today. I've done that endlessly, and it's been wonderful with the pictures we took earlier and having this conversation.
Yeah.
And then I read this first paragraph because these other 2 transits have been going on, and they're going on for like the next 6 months.
Yeah.
So I keep those on my back burner. But
So
then it's
basically, if you do you want to know how to respond to the energy? Is that what understanding what the energy is for the day?
Yeah, or
how to
it's-
respond.
because anything that happens is an action. How you live your life is the reaction.
Right.
So you get hit with all these actions, but you have the pretty much like attack or retreat,
Okay.
or like positive or negative. So then that's where I'm like, it almost will tell me what to look out for.
Okay.
So when I get hit with that action, I know like, oh, there's that. React this way. Even though I want to react this way.
Exactly. Okay.
Now it takes that awareness and gives me the power to move the way I want to move with it.
Okay.
Instead of going this way, now I got to go through a whole new rabbit hole to get to the same point.
Gotcha.
Whereas this way, okay, it's a little bit easier and gets me more on my path.
Okay.
Or, it opens up the opportunity for more stuff to happen with that.
Okay.
So it just, you still can't beat your destiny, or,
Right.
your destiny's your destiny.
Blueprint. Yeah.
But it allows you to spend your energy on more stuff you want to focus on than stuff that you have to repair and rebuild and learn from.
Okay.
And that's so powering. But then I read my horoscope at the end of the day to see if I lived correctly or not.
Okay.
Or I'll read my horoscope and it'll be like, don't do this, and I'm like, you know, my intuition was telling me not to do that, but I
Yeah.
did it anyways.
Yeah.
That's something I need to be aware of in the future.
Right.
So,
Gotcha.
cool. All right, he's giving me that. Great reading. Thank you for the
you.
conversation.
Thank you, Chris.
And that is this episode. We'll keep it short. Be sure to subscribe, like, comment, and if you guys want your own reading, visit yumispirituality.com. I had to think about that for a second. It's my cool website built by my cool friend Beth. She's awesome. If you need a website, hit her up. Thank you very much and have a nice day.